The Republic of Cyprus became a member of the European Union in 2004 and joined the Eurozone, the group of countries that have the euro as their currency, in January 2008. During this period, the economy of the country that has less than 1 million people grew faster than that of other southern European countries. Credit expanded rapidly, and the banking industry became very large relative to the size of the economy.
The life was good. We had a feeling of being secured and the feeling of stability.
If you looked at Cyprus in the period between Eurozone entry or even before to the run-up to the crisis around 2008, what you saw is Cyprus growing at a very brisk pace of about 4% per year, which was much better than many other countries in Europe. So everything seemed well. However, under this seemingly good performance, there were very large imbalances, economic imbalances building up.
Following the onset of first the global crisis and then the European periphery crisis, growth slowed down and the economy entered into a prolonged recession in 2012. Particularly affected was the real estate sector, where a pre-crisis boom turned into a bust. The banking sector, which was heavily exposed to the property market both in Cyprus and in Greece, and to the Greek government bonds, which were eventually restructured. As a result, Cyprus banks came under severe pressure, and in mid-2012, the authorities requested help from the international community.
What happened in Cyprus at the time was a slowdown in growth. The property market turned around, prices were declining rather than increasing. Banks started lending less. The culmination of all this was a loss of market confidence in Cyprus itself, and the government essentially lost market access. It meant that it couldn't borrow anymore to finance its spending and its obligations. And when the government cannot finance whatever it needs to spend, be it on repayments of debt to the international community or be it on salaries to public officials, then it's basically threatened to go bankrupt.
Personally, I would blame, first of all, the central government authorities. And as you know, Cyprus has only less than 1 million inhabitants. It's a small economy, so everything could easily be forecasted.
It is always easy in retrospect to have perfect foresight, if you will. Clearly, a lot of people, including the government, I think, were seeing these imbalances. But it's very, very hard to predict exactly when and how they would unwind.
After long negotiation and a change in government, an agreement was finally reached with the Troika in late March 2013 for a bailout package of 10 billion euros, provided that insolvent banks are resolved and recapitalized through bail-in of creditors, including uninsured depositors. This required the imposition of a prolonged bank holiday and subsequent restrictions on payments and capital flows.
Nobody believed this would happen with the banks, that suddenly overnight your funds that are in the bank are locked. There's nothing you can do, and this went on for 2-3 weeks.
There were a number of banks that were very large in and of themselves relative to the size of the economy that had accumulated very large losses as a result, in part due to risky decisions and risky investments that they had made.
The government, unfortunately, was not in a position to help. On one hand, its own public debt was huge, and the sheer size of the support that was needed was just too large. A potential solution could have been some other mechanisms from the international community to support the banks directly, so not to lend to the government, but to lend to the banks. But that, unfortunately, was not available at the time, and it's still not available as of now.
As a result, really the only alternative that was available was to share this burden with the creditors of the troubled banks themselves. What happened was that they took some of the losses and part of their deposits were converted into equity. So essentially they were transformed in shareholders in these banks. In this manner, the government did not have to borrow and put money in these banks. It did not have to overburden future generations.
2013 was a difficult year for the Cypriot economy. GDP fell by 5.5%, and unemployment, which was under 4% in 2008, rose to 17% in December.
I could see people who were losing their jobs or trying to get a job, but they couldn't. And that was a disturbing thing for me, since I knew that I would be part of that issue as well at a point.
You can see in the street, you can see in the supermarket, you can see in the evening out, you can see there is crisis, of course, but we are trying to get it through because Cypriot people are tough.
The economic program that has been put in place together with the international community is there precisely to ease this adjustment and this pain. And let me explain why. As I have said, the government is still running deficits. And is expected to do so in a period of recession also, because its capacity to raise taxes during this time is much more impaired than it was in the past. At the same time, it still has the same obligations. It needs to pay salaries, it needs to pay the debts that it has accumulated in the past.
Now, in order to do so, given lower taxes, it can take some adjustment measures. Increase taxes to some extent, reduce spending to some extent, and it has already done so. But it is extremely painful to be able to do all of that adjustment at once. What does the future hold for the population of this small island stricken by such a large crisis? Expectations vary.
I expect my government to create more jobs.
I did lower my expectations. I'm trying to be happy with even having this job, so I can even get some money to survive by myself instead of staying home and having nothing.
The bankruptcy risk, it's over. The nation's bankruptcy risk is over. Okay, we have found the money and we are working towards maintaining at least what we've got so far. Now, it remains to be seen whether some measures which are being taken by the central government will come to a positive result. It remains to be seen, but the risk is still there.
Clearly, most of the, or many of the most difficult decisions have been taken already, and the crisis has been averted. However, there is still a difficult economic situation. We are expecting the recession to continue this year. We are expecting unemployment to continue to grow over time before it gradually starts declining.
There has been much accomplished during this year. All the banks in Cyprus, or the main banks, have been recapitalized. The fiscal deficit has been reduced despite this recession and a reduction in the capacity of the government to tax. And finally, a number of structural reforms have been put in place or have been set in motion.
So I can say that there is now light at the end of the tunnel. However, we are not out of the tunnel yet. There are still significant challenges, policy challenges for the government to continue to implement. Clearly, the international community is there in Cyprus to help the Cypriot government both to go through this difficult period of adjustment through our financial assistance, and also to help them with advice and support to put in place the macroeconomic policies that are necessary for growth to resume in Cyprus.